Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August Product Tank. We're proud to host you here at Accessit Library Software here in Wellington, and we are so excited to have Suhel speaking with us this evening. Suhel has been in the New Zealand tech community for quite a while. He's an incredible product leader and operator and is currently working in developing AI products. A little while ago when Suhel presented at a Microsoft conference in California, I hit him up and said, you need to do that presentation for our local community. So here we are a couple months later. I'm so excited to have him here. And that's basically it. Awesome. Thanks so much, Suhel.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for hosting, and thank you all for coming. Great to see you all. As Chelsea mentioned, I'm Suhel. I currently work at LawVu, which is what I'm wearing at the moment. That's my day job. I'm a principal PM there. I work in solving valuable customer problems that might or might not use generative AI technology. That's my day job. By evening and weekends, I'm also a startup founder. Do we have slides? Yes. I am building my startup, which is called JobAlchemist, which is to help people looking for a change in their career, finding a job, landing a job, and increasing their confidence in landing that job. So I have a technical co-founder. She builds everything using AI agents. We're pretty much doing everything using AI. So we're trying to stay very lean and build that startup as well. And remaining time that I have left over, I spend with my family and my wife, who's watching right now. So that's a bit about me. So yeah, I mean, like who feels, I actually saw this on my LinkedIn feed. I shared it internally with a bunch of people, and this feels very relevant. Vibe coding is a thing. People can build like proof of concepts very quickly, and it feels like you should be able to do more with AI very quickly. Obviously, this says CEOs, but really it could be anybody. Yeah, I share that. CXOs, PMs, I'm quite guilty myself. Like my team will tell me off that, oh, cool, that prototype that you built, I'm not really going to be able to ship that quickly. So, and I know designers in my team and others as well. They're also building quick prototypes, but you can build shiny things, but actually getting it into customer's hand that work in a reliable, consistent way is kind of one of the biggest challenges. And that's the journey that we've gone through at LawVu in the last 12 months. And I'll share some of the learnings that we've had in terms of what's worked well for us and what hasn't, and some of the failures that we've had as well, and we've had many, and some of the successes that we've had along that journey as well. So everyone loves a shiny demo. Anyone can kind of really make those these days with like LawVu and Replit and whatever else you've got available. But getting that beyond that shiny demo to a product that works for your customers consistently and that is highly retentive and highly engaging or high engagement is not easy. So there are many things that you need to do. I'm just going to pick 3 that's worked for us, and that's like a short list. There are still kind of a large number of things that you need to carry on doing well in order to ship generative AI products. The first one, which was really counterintuitive for us, so I'll try to get out of the way, was narrow your surface area. And what this means is, well, let me give you an example. At LawVu, about June, July last year, we had this snazzy marketing video for a product that we were going to launch called Workspace Intelligence. It was a chat, and for context, LawVu has as in-house lawyers end-to-end operating system. It has documents and emails and everything that in-house lawyers would need. And we thought we could slap on a chatbot and say, search for anything, ask and answer any questions. And as you could all kind of like, I saw some chuckles. That lasted for about 2 days, and we lost all engagement. And users lost trust in the system. Nobody came back after a couple of weeks. So yeah, we learned some really hard lessons in terms of what is actually possible. And the biggest sort of mistake that we made was we started at a really broad surface area. So ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, and a whole bunch of those other things are at that end. It's an open-ended, ask anything, solve anything. And we try to do the same thing. And, technology is available to do those things, but it is a really hard problem to solve it in a consistent way that it works to meet the user's expectation. Starting there was kind of something that we did. And we kind of internally call it, chatbot or ChatGPT for X problem, or slap on a chatbot to your application problem. It's still possible to build a chatbot, an open-ended one, but in order to do that, you have to do a lot of really hard things. So get your data infrastructure right, have deep expertise in prompt engineering and evaluations and evaluation loops. You have to have model orchestration working well. And I don't know who's been using ChatGPT 5 recently. They had a big problem themselves with model routing and model orchestration because they're trying to decide which model to use based on what you're prompting, and they had to fix that problem themselves. So even a company like OpenAI can struggle with model orchestration. You have to kind of get your AI UX that gracefully handles hallucinations, kind of automatically determine, did we hallucinate something before you respond to the user, go back and review that answer, redo it, and then kind of try again. As well as deep expertise in A/B testing and feedback capture and having a loop. So all those things are, if you do them well, and probably more, then you can build an open-ended chatbot that does a whole lot of stuff and meets customer expectation. Because one of the things with open-ended chatbot was we found customers wanted to do everything when we put it out there for our LawVu customers. And they were asking questions that we didn't even anticipate. And we didn't even have the ability to connect to the underlying data at that point in time to retrieve the information and answer that question. So when you offer an open surface area, you're telling them anything is possible. And they've also come with those expectations now because ChatGPT is working that way. So you're setting a really high expectation. You're almost setting yourself up for failure. And it's really hard unless you can do all those things and you have billions of dollars like OpenAI and Anthropic and Google. So hard lesson for us. Yeah, I see all those things. The hardest thing for us was, we work in legal tech at LawVu, and once you lose trust with users, they're already risk averse quite a lot. They cannot take an AI output. At least that's what they tell us. I know that lawyers have taken AI output and done a bunch of stuff with it, but they generally cannot take AI output and just sort of trust it. They need to know that it is accurate and it's verified and verifiable within the app as well. So when it isn't, and they ask a question, they will lose trust if they don't believe in that answer. And winning that back is really hard. And that's what we found as well with our LawVu legal customers. So first thing that we've done based on that experience is narrow the surface area. Small, tightly defined scope of use cases for customers. And this is kind of like product management 101, right? What is the customer problem? What is their workflow? What does the user story map look like of the journey that they're going on? And pick small things within that you can tightly scope and solve. And obviously solve with a prioritized list of what's the most burning problem that we can feasibly solve with AI. Not biggest problem, but small, feasible, valuable problem that you can solve. And as I mentioned, you want to embed it in the workflows rather than an open-ended chatbot. They don't know when to use it. They don't know how to use it. They don't know, whether it's right fit for that workflow or not. So don't make the users think too hard. So the reverse of open-ended is obviously narrow, defined scope. So this is stolen from this website. Everybody should read this article that are thinking about building generative AI solutions. They had a couple of examples of Photoshop generative fill. It does one thing. That's the only thing that it does, and it does it really well because you've narrowly defined it. You can prompt engineer it to its maximum capability, And you can test that little functionality much better because you're not trying to have a big surface area of any questions that users can ask. In the same way, what we've done is rather than a chatbot that can do anything, we have specific targeted workflow actions that our customers perform. And some of these are just like a button that they click as opposed to even needing to write a prompt. So summarize contract, we work with our internal lawyers and some of our customers, ask them how often do you want to summarize, what does a good summary look like, what do you need in there, and kind of really define what a good summary looks like, and then really prompt engineered the system to generate that summary consistently, accurately, grounded in the source data. And now those sort of use cases are doing exceptionally well. So here's actual examples. So rather than the chatbot, and within the LawVu app, we present these options that are available. They're single click, and users can just click that button and AI does its magic. We're also grounding where we source the information from, so they can verify that, yep, this is accurate. This is a key date that's been extracted based on that piece of the contract document. And they can move forward with confidence and use AI to save them time, save them money. And then we have other, this one is a specific use case where in-house lawyers get intakes from business users. They send requests for legal help. And what we have here is the ability for them. So we crunch a bunch of data that says, who is the best person that can answer this question from the team, and who has the most available time, who has a workload, what is the complexity, and we take care of all of that thinking. They just have to press this little sparkle icon, and we present them with all the choices. Again, don't need to prompt. Like a good prompt engineer can probably go away and think about all those things and write a prompt that could probably generate the same list. But we're removing that burden from our users, and these things are working better for our users because they can just focus on the job that they need to do rather than becoming prompt engineers. And for JobAlchemist, we also implemented like a CV review, and again, that's like a button that they need to press to upload their CV, and that thing is just focusing on that one specific task only. Many more carries on. One of the biggest value that we've seen also is my team was the only team working on generative AI about 9 months ago. But because we're deliberately focusing on tighter scope features, this note summary, and this is not a great example because there's not much chat in here, this note summary was built by a team and it took them a week to ship this out. So not only our team is working on generative AI features, we've found a way to enable the other product teams that may or may not have AI capability natively available in the team in terms of people and their capability, but they can also ship features. And all they've done is use a summarize button, and there's a prompt behind that that takes the context and works for our users. And I had a customer yesterday or a couple of days ago tell me, even though this feature is super small, it saved them hours of scanning through historical notes, and they can instantly generate one, as well as go back to a previous one and see what's been happening on legal notes. So it doesn't have to be a really massive feature. And that's been one of our biggest learning, which is just work out the user journey, find the problem spaces, and determine where AI can be used to reasonably solve that problem. Do you have input? Do you have a good idea of what an output looks like? So a note summary or a contract summary or a job CV analysis or whatever that could be. If you do define that, then you have the ability to kind of build a well-defined AI augmented solution that really solves a customer problem. So that was the first thing. Second thing is build evaluations from day one. So I don't know if people know what evaluation is. Evaluations? Yeah, got some, yeah. So if you've done machine learning, then you know that in order to test whether a model is performing well, you have an evaluation data set that you build a model on the training data set, and you have an evaluation data set that the model has not seen. And you say, well, is this customer going to buy this product? Yes or no? And the evaluation is like, hasn't seen, it's blind. And when you test it on the model, you get an output that says, well, it's accurate about 60% of the time, or it's accurate 95% of the time. And because it hasn't seen it, the higher that number, you know that it's not cheating, because AI will cheat and train on the data to really kind of learn what that data is, as opposed to learn to generalize on brand new data. And that's what evaluation data sets are really for. So with generative AI, it's equally still important to do evaluations, and they become really critical after this step. So once whoever has built a proof of concept, and they've proven that it's probably feasible to solve this problem, that is a valuable problem to solve, you need to start thinking about, well, how are we going to build it so that we can get consistency, we can get reliability, and we can be confident that when it ships to our customers, that it will work in the way that our customers expect to a reasonable amount. You can't get 100%, but what is that threshold? So in order to build that idea of how consistent, reliable, and doesn't hallucinate, doesn't lie, you need an evaluation framework. So to do evaluations, you need three things. One of them is evaluation strategy. So get really clear on your objective and use case. What is it that you're really solving? Building contract summaries or CV analysis or a note summary or a key date extraction. Get really clear on what is the business, user use case, and what is the objective. What does the input look like? What does a good output look like? And get super clear on those. So that's your success criteria and how you measure. There's a couple of other images. The success criteria in this case is more around how the sort of hallucination pieces. So how will you know when it's hallucinating? In terms of the contract key dates extraction, for example, we knew that our success criteria was it must never miss a key date, because key dates are really, really important from a contract document. If we miss something like, this is the expiry date or the termination date, or here's the 90-day window when it must be renewed, otherwise it gets automatically cancelled. Those are really, really important. So our success criteria were it must never, never miss a key date. It has to be 100%. It must never make up a key date, so not hallucinate. Every key date must be accurate. So if you had 5, it must pull 5. They must be the right 5, and the dates for those must actually be accurate as well. So really define what your success criteria is. So for us, it was really crystal clear. Never miss anything, never make up anything. All the dates must be accurate. We also generated titles for each of the dates using generative AI, and we gave it a little bit more flex in that. So the semantic meaning of that title should be okay, but we weren't looking for 100% match with what we'd had. So really define what your success criteria looks like. And I just talked about the threshold. So those are all really, really high for the dates, but the title was more flexible. It has to be about 90% semantically similar. So those are kind of things that you need to think through for each of the use cases. So if we go back to an open-ended chatbot, imagine having to work through all of these things for kind of all the use cases that your customers may want to put into a chatbot. And then, you cannot do that in the amount of budget and time and people and capability that we have. But like OpenAI can, we just don't have that time and money and talent. So I won't go through all of these, but here's just kind of an example of contract summaries. I think there might be a couple more. So we went through all of these things, and I think I talked about sort of extract all dates, must derive all key dates as well, don't make up any dates, and generate sensible titles. And the important thing there in terms of threshold is if it's okay one time, that's not the only thing. It must run 20 times and be 99% over 20 runs. So it's how variable it is, because generative AI will be great when the first time you ask it and you come back tomorrow, you ask the same question, it decides to be creative. So we run multiple when we do the evaluations. We run 20 times and see what the variability looks like. So those are kind of thresholds that we had to come up with for all of these use cases.
And is the AI evaluating itself, or do you manually evaluate?
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll come back to that. So to kind of partially answer your question, one of the things is we handcraft the data, the accurate data ourselves. So we're hand curating so key dates example, we took 20 contracts, manually read through all of them, and ensured we extracted the key dates that made sense to us. And it wasn't just one person, it was 3 people, and we all triangulated what we all thought was a key date. We didn't always agree what was a key date. And then we had an arbitrator, which was our in-house legal person, who would say, no, this is what's right. And that one's okay, because it's not legally really important. So that ground truth is really important. And we had curated that. You obviously also need representative samples. 20 was probably what we started with. We have many more now to ensure that we're capturing different languages, because we have customers in German, French, and Spanish, as well as different type of contracts with tables, or contracts with everything that is in text, with images, some of it. So representative sample is really important as well. And obviously the ground truth, as I mentioned, doesn't have to be done right from the beginning with thousands of contracts. You can start with 5, add 5 more. As you learn things, you can add more ground truth as you go along. One other thing, so we'll get to your question at the end. The third part of evaluation is, you've got your ground truth, you've got your use cases and threshold and scenarios and everything else. What we then set up is a rapid experimentation loop. So to answer Toad's question, it is an LLM that's doing the judging, and it is a different LLM that is doing the judge to the one that's done the extraction, and it is much harsher, and it has its own sort of prompt to ensure that it's staying as accurate as possible in terms of judging the output of the LLM itself. So we have ground truth, we know what good looks like, and we have an LLM that is then kind of evaluating the output. And then over the 20 runs, it makes, we actually end up getting kind of actual metric data from the LLM judge that says, yep, this data is 100% accurate, this title is semantically similar, and those outputs are then evaluated using standard statistical techniques. We're also, LawVu isn't doing automated evaluations and updating itself. But one of the things that we're testing with JobAlchemist is the ability to take a job fit analysis, for example, and I've kind of used it on myself because I know my CV, and then take a bunch of jobs, and then I have sort of ground truth on what is a good fit for me, and then I set up an automated evaluation and underlying prompt enhancements to go back and update the system prompt and regenerate the fit analysis. And it can run over multiple loops by itself and judge itself, update itself, and then rerun the whole system and set it up to run for a few loops. And that's some of the things that I'm trying at in the evenings for JobAlchemist, and we're looking to also bring that. Well, I'm trying to bring that into LawVu as well. So yeah, and that's the loop really. I mean, you need ground truth, and you really need to curate it by hand. You cannot trust an LLM to generate good ground truth. And then you need to set up your evaluation sort of criteria and a system and a framework for it, and then run rapid experiments and kind of expand your ground truth as you learn more things. Update your evaluations as you learn things as well. So you might say, actually, it's really the prompt that we're using to do the judging is not accurate enough, or it's too flexible, or it's always saying it's working well. So when you learn those things, you take a look at the evaluations data and you go back and update, and then you keep on expanding scope. So yeah, so the second thing is build evaluations from one day, build your strategy, do your ground truth, and run lots and lots and lots of experiments, because you're never going to get it first time, right? Some of the key date stuff that we have out in production, we do know that sometimes some specific contracts, it doesn't always perform well. So we kind of need to always go back and run more experiments and see how do we update the extraction system and the prompts. You kind of never really finish, is what I mean, even when you're building and even after production.
Do you let the user know any sort of caveat about, like, sometimes we don't get stuff right?
Yeah, I mean,
is
it's
that in the app as well? Do they know
yeah. So it's plastered everywhere. AI, please verify the output of AI. Yeah, including terms and conditions, but we'll read those. But it is in the app. Every time we have an AI output, there is a caveat right there.
Do you use in the framework reinforcement loops of any kind?
You mean like reinforcement learning, like train our own? No. So we just don't have the money and the time. LawVu is also very unique in the sense that we cannot train on customer data at all because the contracts are really sensitive. We have customers, LinkedIn is one of our customers, for example. We've got customers around the world. They, in all our standard T's and C's, it's baked in there where we cannot look at their data ever, unless they give us explicit permission for a specific type defined bug that we had. So we cannot train on customer data. For that reason, we can't do reinforcement learning or actually test. And this is a nice segue. Test internally by saying, hey, I'm going to sample a set of customer contracts and run these prompts over them and see how good they are, because we cannot look at the data. So one of the things that we learned was we needed to find AI savvy users to be our early adopters that we test our features with and that we build together with them. Because the first time that we tried to build an AI workspace intelligence feature, we set expectations really high about what it could do. They also came with really high expectations, and the kinds of customers that we had were also, I want this thing to work, just work, not make mistakes, not be wrong. And because they don't have time and they cannot have a system that makes mistakes. So we learned just the hard way that in order to build with high confidence generative AI augmented features, we needed to find a small set of early beta users that were already using AI in their day-to-day. They knew the quirks of AI and how to make it work. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure all of you have used ChatGPT and Claude and a bunch of other stuff. And, sometimes it always doesn't behave as you or respond as you'd expect. But you've worked out how to work with that and try to get the maximum out of those LLMs. We found that, we wanted to find users that were experimental and had like a hypothesis-driven approach. And what that means is, they'll say, okay, Claude didn't really respond the way that I expected. What is it that I can change in this prompt? Can I actually just get Claude to generate a prompt for me, and maybe I can run that? And so they're learning and experimenting at the sort of cutting edge of what is possible with the LLMs. Because 80 to 90% of our users are not these things. But if by sort of working with the early beta users that have these sort of mindsets and approach.
So how do you learn from mistakes that have happened in production if you can't see the data that caused the
really
bad
difficult?
answer?
Yeah, really. Yeah. So that's why we have a beta period with a small select group of customers. And as part of the beta, we have terms and conditions that allows us. But it's very few set of customers that allow us to use the data. So alongside with like being a good AI savvy user already, they have to be ready and willing to accept those beta terms. And that's the only way. And that's not something that LawVu has done historically, but we advocated for it, and we found a bunch of organizations that are happy to jump on that bandwagon because they can see the possibility of what AI could do for them, and they were willing to take that risk.
I was wondering whether there was some like obfuscation tricks people do with
Definitely.
data to make it still have a good result, but not release the sensitive data.
Yeah, it's not 100% always going to work as well, but yeah, we've tried that in terms of, I mean, we use it internally to, obfuscate and replace with placeholders and stuff like that for sure. The other thing that we really honed in on was, the native users are okay tolerating rough edges around your product, and again, like lots of our customers don't have time. They've got to get 100 things done. The legal team are typically really, really small. They're sort of doing the work of 2 times the size of the people that they have, and it's unending. So yeah, they just don't really have time to tolerate most of them. So we have to really dig deep and find those kind of customers. And the really valuable thing that we've done after kind of finding those kind of users is they're giving us feedback that's actually actionable. Typically we might get things like, oh, it wasn't accurate. It's like, okay, cool. Why? And you have to work really harder with them. Whereas these other customers that are already AI savvy, they're much more kind of going to give us valuable and critical feedback about how to improve it as well, because they're sort of using AI all the time. So that's been really valuable in helping us move from broad features to narrow features and finding customers that are willing to try those early, and we can kind of iteratively develop them quicker with their feedback and their data and improve it until it's good enough for us to release to an early access and general availability. And obviously we haven't forgotten the rest of the customers. So the beta users are kind of out here in terms of early tech evangelists, tech enthusiasts, and early adopters. Actually, 2 things. We realized we didn't need a lot. 10 is probably enough, and even fewer. So a product that we're working on at the moment at LawVu only has 3 beta customers around the world: EU, US, and Australia. But they're handpicked because of the qualities and characteristics that they have, and we're getting really valuable feedback from them in terms of what's important, what's working well, what's not working well in the product. But we're still talking to everybody else that we're eventually going to sell this feature to or product to, because we need to ensure that it's going to work for the majority of the people that are going to give us the money, and we're not building for the power users that are super sort of tech savvy and AI savvy, and that we're meeting the rest of the sort of mainstream market as well. One of the things that we're also doing is like testing the willingness to pay, because this is a paid feature, and you get slightly different answers depending on the market that you talk to. In terms of these guys here, I can't reveal too much more. And the last point on that is, especially touching on kind of the power user bit, what these early adopters and AI savvy users would tolerate in terms of UI and UX is very different from what everybody else would want as well. So, that's something that we've kept in mind as we sort of develop a feature, ensure the designs are tested with every other customer that's going to use this and adopt in future. So bringing it all together, go back. JobAlchemist kind of started as like, hey, maybe we could do a career coach. It's a chatbot, and like people can just talk to it and get help. It's an infinite surface area of questions. Some of the early sort of like evaluations was just, it feels right. Yeah, maybe it's okay. And well, random selection of users I put here, but basically it was just me and my wife and the co-founder. But after and now, JobAlchemist is very tightly defined. Each one of these is, CV analysis and job fit. Everything is a one feature that's focused just on solving that problem. And because we're building the app with like AI in mind, we're ensuring that all these features work harmoniously together as well. We carry the context all the way through. We ensure we incorporate everything that we know about the user, the job, and anything else that we can get our hand on to provide the best value for job seekers. And we have structured evaluations, and we're building them and enhancing them as we go along. And I'm testing this with job seekers, but also AI-savvy job seekers as well. That's a very early prototype. I just put it in here just to show like broken down in terms of very specific use cases as opposed to a chatbot. I did apply for this job, I didn't get it. And yeah, so I kind of talked about the sort of confidential paid add-on. You know, we did the earlier version of it was like an open-ended chatbot, impossible to evaluate what it will do and within budget and time. And we kind of put anyone that was interested in anything AI. But the version that we're working on now is one very specific workflow and contracts. And we've talked to lots of customers leading up to defining that problem. And we know that it will save them time. We know it will save them money. We know they'll be able to do more than what's been possible before, because they're limited in time. They turn away a request or kind of say, okay, I'll only look at 5 contracts to answer this question rather than the 500 that we have, because I don't have time. We don't have budget to send it out to an agency. So we've learned all those things, and we define that workflow and how AI can augment that whole workflow and solve a whole bunch of their problems and save them a lot of money and time. And we've got, you know, structured evaluations. We've gone through 70 contracts. It says 100 plus, but 70. And, you know, we're looking at what does that sort of output look like, and how do we make sure we're evaluating and ensuring the accuracy and hallucination and citations and groundedness. And three beta orgs, as I mentioned earlier. So, you know, as PMs and product builders, our job still remains build products that delight customers and work for the business. And whether you use AI or not, it's kind of really, it's an enabling technology. It's not a product. It's a thing that you have available, much like you have AWS or Postgres as a database or whatever else. It's an enabling technology. And as long as we stay grounded in the problems that we're solving for our customers that work for our business, it doesn't really matter whether you're using AI or not. Some of those features that I showed you earlier, a couple of them actually don't have any AI, but people think it has AI. But, you know, they love it because it's actually working for them. And even though I have a little sparkle icon, you know, no one needs to know. And they love it. So to recap, you know, 3 things: narrow the surface area, build evaluations from day one. You know, don't forget about how are you going to prove and to yourself first that this AI thing is working and it's accurate, and I'm okay to release it to a bunch of customers. And then partner with AI native and savvy users that will give you valuable feedback. They will use your product. They'll be okay with it not working well, and you can kind of iterate faster to build a great solution. So I guess like the real question is, maybe there are people in here that believe that AI won't transform everything. I'm on the extreme end. I think AI will transform everything in every aspect of our lives. My children use it for study as a study partner, and my wife uses it. She builds Power BI dashboards and reports, and she uses it to sense check the underlying code and update a bunch of stuff as well. I use it every hour to do something. Whatever we're doing, I think AI will transform that industry in some shape or form. And the question is, you know, will we ride the wave and capture the value, or will we be watching from the sidelines as someone else does? Yeah, that's my talk. Thank you so much.
Is there a question from someone online?
Bonus, yes.
I was just going to say that right before we went online, you told me to tell the people to put their questions in.
Oh, yeah.
And then I did not tell the people to put their questions in.
I've been telling them. So here's one from, I don't know if this is a chatbot asking it, but they've given me their name.
What's it? Oh.
So the question is, what temperature do you usually use for your LLMs so that you can follow system instructions? I don't know if people know temperature. There's a few. Yeah, cool. So it's kind of how creative it gets when it's answering. And in legal tech, we use very low temperature. We want it to be as closely following and not get creative in answering. For JobAlchemist, it's a little bit more loose. We're giving it more freedom to be creative. Okay.
People in the room can answer.
Yeah. We could go back to that slide.
Let's take some questions in the room.
Yes.
Question of building products.
Yes.
What about modes? How can you build something that no one else can, build the same or better tomorrow?
I think that question is hard. I mean, and it's no different from what it has been before as well. I don't know if people use ChatPRD here. Anybody knows ChatPRD? One person. So ChatPRD is a really interesting app. I think it's only one and a half person. She quit her job as CPTO of Launch Darkly because that ChatPRD is making her more money. She's going all in. The reason why I raise it because it's effectively just using ChatGPT to build PRD. The moat is the user experience and the singular focus and enabling not only PMs, but engineers and anybody else that needs PRDs. And she's super focused on building the best experience around that and scaffolding that whole experience so that people don't start with a chatbot and go, I need a PRD. Actually, she's providing all the scaffolding so that anybody can go in there. Start with either a very simple phrase or here's all my thinking and reframe this for me into a structured PRD document of any template. And there's a whole bunch of templates and stuff that you know. So the moat really is, have you thought deeply about what the customer problems are and you're singularly focused on solving that problem well enough, and then you just repeat that process. So she started with just PRDs, added templates, added inline editing, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you obviously solve that problem first, and then you keep on expanding so that hopefully nobody can catch up to you. Then you can code. So LawVu is really interesting. We're an incumbent to some extent. So we've got 10 years worth of customers. And, for customers that have established themselves and are using the system fully end to end, it's really hard to lift and shift into a different system. So that in itself is one of the moats. There's a enduring we've got our data in here, we have to do a massive change management process, and all those other things. So in a way that is also moat. And that's why, adding AI on top of it is really valuable because they're going to continue to use the system, but they get more value out of every hour that they spend. But it is really nothing to stop OpenAI or Anthropic or any of those to add new features in there, or for other people to just copy what you're doing as well. Yes.
I have a question about willingness to pay.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice on when you kind of pass the thresholds of this is the feature that I should charge for? And do you believe there's a nuance there? This is something I'm personally struggling with, where it's a feature that AI is it's built into the workflow rather than AI is the feature. If it's a chatbot, it's very clearly it's AI. But if it's built into a workflow and the AI is kind of working in the background, would you look at the willingness to pay differently for these two things, or generally do you have advice for when do we start charging for AI features?
Yeah, I mean, you want to charge for features as opposed to AI features.
Fair.
Yeah. and those features should be solving a meaningful problem
Yeah.
that's burning enough for customers for them to part with more money than they're already giving you.
Mhm.
We have at LawVu multiple approaches. One is there's a set of features that are baked into plans, and you just get them for free because we believe that they're deeply embedded in workflows and they just help them do stuff and improve their productivity and efficiency and all the other good stuff.
And is AI supporting some of those ones?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
And
yeah.
they're just part of the plan.
Yeah.
And strategically, it's been a good lever for certain customers that are on really archaic plans. Encourage them. So while it looks like it's free, we're also benefiting in terms of moving people onto standard plans.
Okay.
So that's one aspect. The other one, we just learned through a lot of customer interviews. So the special add-on that is an AI feature that we're building right now with our small sort of 3 beta customers, we learned through a lot of customer interviews. It's a burning problem, not well solved. They're already paying hundreds of thousands of dollars, either in hired people or outsourcing. And
To help them solve that burning
yes,
problem.
yeah, as well as when they do solve it, they descope what they solve. So rather than looking at all 500 contracts, we'll look at the 5. That's what I can look at in the time that I've got available. So they're taking a shortcut because of available budget and time. So just through a lot of customer interviews, even before we thought about building the feature, as we're learning about the problem space, we knew that this would be a paid feature. Like through all my learnings, I think I always feel the willingness to pay conversation has come a lot later than I would really like. It should always be coming earlier, and as quickly as possible. Especially when you realize that this is a valuable problem to solve, and if it's also really hard to solve technically for your team, then you need to have that willingness to pay very early. Because if you're going to spend multiple quarters, you want to know that customers are going to part with a significant amount of money because you're solving a burning problem. So yeah, I think it's just like reminder to yourself, just have it early, and just earlier the better.
Thanks. Great advice.
JobAlchemist is it's been interesting. People have decided and told me explicitly, without me asking for it, that I'm willing to pay for this. The sample output that they've seen, if it had this additional one thing, which helps me really improve my CV, and gives me something that I can't get out of ChatGPT and Claude, I'm willing to part money with it. So yeah, that's been surprising. I didn't think people would say unprompted.
Congrats.
Yeah, they'll give me money. There's a question. We'll go. He raised his hand earlier.
Yeah, just in terms of your evaluation strategy points there, because like when you're talking about efficiencies and gains and so on, it's obviously sometimes difficult to benchmark that with a business. So I'm just kind of curious how you went about that with your customers to say that, hey, when you go talk to your bosses to say this is a good investment, I've been able to save X, Y, Z amount of time, or I can do this easier. Because everyone has different experiences around what the savings are, and ultimately you do have to kind of present the bottom line as to the cost savings that would be, so people above can actually sign things off on that.
Do you mean that from an evaluations perspective, or more from like, hey, we're doing this initiative and we need to scope this, and
More from like the end user. So when they're actually looking at it to say that we can save 20 minutes per day doing this, how did they go about doing that? Because that could be quite subjective, especially with lawyers that like to make their time seem like it's more valuable than it is. So.
Yeah, I think that lawyer comment, I'll just sort of respond to that first. Because we work with in-house lawyers, they're not billing by the hour. Yeah. Because they're like an employee, much like you might have like an internal IT team that's supporting other internal users, so they don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
So in terms of like it's again like a distribution, right? You talk to enough customers and you learn, when I do this for you, or imagine you've told me about all your challenges and here's a solution that we're working on, here's some designs. How often would you use this? How would you, what else would you do with it? And once you have a lot of those conversations, you then say, well, how do you do this right now? And customers are, you have to kind of like tease that out of them. So for one example is one customer said, oh, I spend probably about 20-30 minutes doing that. And then you say, well, how did you arrive at that step? It's like, well, I spent 5 hours going through 50 other contracts to actually determine which one were the right ones. And then my business user also spent 5 hours reviewing that to make sure that I didn't get anything right. So the initial answer was 30 minutes, but actually when you add it all up, it was at least 6 hours worth of effort. And you have a lot of those conversations, and you build a distribution on, the complexity looks like as it gets more complex, there's fewer of those kind of questions, but they look like X number of hours of effort. And through research, we know what an hour of lawyers' time is for in-house lawyers. So we can kind of say, if it's 6 hours, it's X amount of dollars that we're saving them. Yeah. So
Yeah. Because it is something that, because I deal with engineers and stuff and all that there, and you say like, how long will it take to do something? It's like, oh, how long is a piece of string? Start from there basically. So
yeah.
My question is around all of the productionization stuff, like the testing, evaluation, stuff like that. There's this big shift of just do it in like Copilot Studio. You can do it. You can just build a POC. You can just do it. It's just easy. And I've been really struggling to explain all of the productionization around it. And I feel like I'm the only one that's saying this, because all the data scientists are like, just give me the thing. I can do the thing. It's great. How do you explain that to stakeholders that it's not just a POC? It's not just this like handcrafted data that you might do and whatever. There's all of this like infrastructure and process and testing, and like it's a whole thing. How do you explain that in ways they'll understand and not like a running for the hills and say, well, we just won't do it then?
Yeah, so I think the mic is here. So the question is, it seems like building a POC is really easy, and the stakeholders.
I think that's it.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, I've got a working piece of end-to-end POC. Can we just like ship that, put it into production? I mean, maybe I've been lucky at LawVu. Like we don't have that problem. I'm part of the problem. My team tell me don't stop building POCs. But yeah, I think it's this is the same question that someone asked in the Product Altera Slack channel. So if you're not in there, please join. I'm doing a sales job. And I think I responded with, you really have to kind of give them a bit of a dose of reality check that POCs have a place. They're a good place to quickly validate if something, the AI part of it is feasible, or if you're not using kind of AI within the POC, but you're using AI to build a POC, you can use that POC to quickly stress test ideas internally, or even with customers. So we have done that as well. But in order to move that into the existing code base, there are all these other things that we must do. So it's probably like, depending on where you're working, you don't have to share that. You might have to do an ongoing education piece with your stakeholders about, in order to build a feature, and maybe you start with, don't even talk about AI. In order to build a feature, here's what we go through to build a feature to ensure that it's reliable and it works and it's bug-free and etc. And here's the code that goes into it in terms of backend and API and front end and everything.
Maintainable.
Yeah. And then like you throw AI into the mix, and then one of the things the evaluations are really doing is AI is not deterministic. So you're building these evaluations to really see whether you can get it to be more consistent, and that adds extra layers. So it's an education piece that you'll need to go through. Unfortunately, I can't point you to a website or a resource I can give you.
It's a question behind you as well.
Oh yeah.
Question about early stage feedback when it so heavily relies on potentially sensitive customer data, right? We found we took our first AI feature quite far into production, so we can release it in production, so we can show it to customers
Sure.
with their data.
Mm,
And that's quite risky, right, compared to like normal product management where you want to just get feedback as early as possible,
Sure.
right? So what are some strategies to de-risk that from your side?
yeah. So if I rephrase that, if you build something with a small group of users, you're maybe just building something that works for them with their data. But as you move into production, it might not actually work with everyone else's data. Is that kind of
Yeah, it's more the feedback. Like if you build like your average feature,
sure.
right? You can show somebody just a screenshot and
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
get what you mean.
Yeah.
But if you show them a chatbot text interface,
Yeah.
it really depends on how well it behaves with their data.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course.
So you need to hook it up to their data, and that's quite risky. So how far do you take the feature to that level to be useful?
Yeah, I mean, like, so one, because we're narrowing the scope quite a bit in terms of what we deliver and what we focus rather than a chatbot, it does make the job a little bit easier. We can show them, here's some notes that you have, and here's a summary of those notes, and does that work or not? And we still do a lot in Figma mocks and prototypes to test with even the beta customers as well as the future customers as well. And the data that we use for handcrafted evaluations actually ends up becoming the first set of data that we test these features with. So I kind of glossed over that bit. So the 60 or 70 contracts that we have for the premium add-on, that data is being used to not only evaluate, but also to build a live functioning website that we can kind of jump on a call with a beta customer and say, here's what it looks like. Here's the original contract. You click on the cell, you can go to the original grounding document and see where we sourced it from and multiple places that we sourced it from. So you're kind of starting with Figma mocks and getting higher and higher fidelity. You've got some test data that you're demonstrating with as a product, and then you're releasing it to a beta customers. They're testing with their own data. We don't want to get to that without actually testing with something. And then you kind of open it wider. So we have a beta group and then an early access group, which is slightly bigger, before we go to general access, which is everybody that wants to sign up for that. So it's like a widening scope of more and more people exposed. And we will learn at every stage. The premium add-on, the first version of that was a POC that I built over a day, and that gave us the confidence that it could be built. And I use some of our internal contracts that exists already. So yeah, does that kind of help?
Yeah, I guess it really depends on how transferable whatever sample data you have
Yeah.
is. If the customer's like, oh yeah, I know that domain, I know what you
Yeah.
said, right? Versus how specific it is to their particular context.
Yeah, and that's why we try to get representative sample. So the 70 contracts is a whole bunch of different languages, but you can never get it 100% right. The key dates one, for example, we struggle quite a lot with tables, contracts that have tables with text and dates in there. And we really didn't learn that until we had EA with that feature, because the data that we had and that we were training with or testing with didn't have many contracts. So there's always going to be surprises. And if you have a good sort of experimentation setup, as well as engineers that have that experimentation mindset, then you'll be able to move quickly and say, okay, it's not working in this case, or for these new customers that we've added into the early access program, and continue to iterate and develop. Unlike regular software building, I think this is the world of generative AI, where like the team that's working on it also needs to be AI savvy, high growth mindset, high agency, proactive problem solvers, and like be ready and willing to just be okay with ambiguity, so that they can also move in that whole kind of product building with AI, where you're building AI features with confidence. So we've had people that have found it challenging in our team, and they found better teams to work with. They're more than capable of excelling in those teams.
Just branching off the question a little bit, in regards to the data side of things, in the earlier say like 18 months ago, 2 years ago, stages with LLMs, there was a little bit of pushback from people that I was hearing at least around the privacy side of things and putting data into the LLMs, not knowing how that's being used. Did you guys see that at all with LawVu, and how did you kind of manage the expectations of users, particularly when you've got the ones that are coming in at your base pricing tier as well?
Yeah. I mean, LawVu is really interesting because there was a point where it felt like the customers switched from I don't want anything to do with AI to what's your AI roadmap, and it was really surprising internally for a lot of the staff. They were like, all right, I guess we should build something with AI then. And that was beginning of last year, I think. And like at LawVu, we handle data privacy with utmost care because, like I mentioned before, the contracts are highly sensitive. Some of our customers may have things like, oh, what's our $1 billion, commitment with Microsoft, for example. So we never look at the prompts. We store them from an auditing perspective, and none of their data is ever used for training of any kind, either by us or for Microsoft. We're on Azure, and we have special agreements with Azure where they don't also store logs for fraud and monitoring and a bunch of other stuff. So we have agreements in place to give our customers the confidence that we're not training on their data remains their data, it's secure, it's private. And I get on sales call because I'm the AI person, and that's the first thing that I say, and then they're happy to talk about everything else. Because lawyers are risk averse, so they want to know.
Did you have any customers that opted out?
Of AI? So AI features for all our AI features are opt-in.
Right.
They have to enable, they have to accept part of our AI terms and conditions, and only then they're enabled. So we don't turn it on for anybody willy-nilly. It's just the ones that want to be using it. Yeah.
I have a question about the evals that you're saying, specifically when you are trying to evaluate for a generated response that doesn't have a ground truth. Some questions don't have an answer. How many dates are in this document? Some questions not necessarily. Do you have any strategies or any ideas to share on how we do that?
Yeah, so the dates one, for example, we do have ground truth because we've kind of manually curated them. But I don't think we have any use cases now that where we can't generate ground truth. So even the note summary, for example, we have a set of sample organizations with a bunch of notes that are made, and we have a good idea of what that summary should look like in terms of what it consists and topics it should cover and so forth. So I think
even those you crafted.
Yeah. I mean, for your sanity, you probably want to do that. There are other strategies that we have used historically, which is we'll just ask another LLM whether it's like okay or not, without giving it any ground truth. And that hasn't always worked out well. So it really depends, and I think it helps when you've tightly scoped, and that's why like all of those things combined together give you the power to move confidently in solving the right problems for your customers, that delights them and works for your business to make money. Yeah, I don't know what time is it. Do we have?
Probably pretty close to it.
Pretty close. Okay. One last question. Yes.
You investigated a bunch of AI technologies, of course. Yep. What ones did you go for and why?
Should I answer that from a personal perspective or LawVu?
LawVu would be pretty interesting, but
yeah. I'll give 3 answers because I've been feeling generous.
Is the third one?
Yeah. LawVu, we don't have a choice. We're on Azure. Our data cannot leave Azure. So we use whatever's available in Azure. So it's Azure OpenAI and whatever models we want to use within the Azure Foundry.
So does that have like a LangChain as well, or is that like an option? I know.
Yeah, I mean we don't use LangChain, but we use Microsoft Semantic Kernel, which is very similar. So it has its own kind of routing and everything, and it takes care of deciding how to answer the question and so forth. So yeah, that's what we're using at LawVu, and we use a range of models, including O3 and O4 and Microsoft Phi, which is their own kind of Microsoft model. JobAlchemist is using Gemini, Gemini Pro and Gemini, Flash 2.5 and it's worked out really well.
What do you use to interact with Gemini? Is that
Direct.
chain or is it like
No, so we because it's actually just super targeted specific actions. So if you just almost think of it as I press this button and it does one thing, I press this button, does one thing. LangChain is, I guess, really valuable when you have a chat and you need to keep a history of the chat, and then the chat decides which plugin to call, which tools to call, etc. We kind of don't need to do that because I'm doing a job fit analysis. I press that button, has a specific API and an endpoint that we're calling with its own kind of prompt that gets built up to be able to answer that question. So we're doing away with needing any sort of like LangChain or semantic kernel at the moment. We may need something in JobAlchemist where we're providing a coaching service within that. Coaching is the wrong word, but negotiation coach. Everyone wants more money. So being able to have a conversation with X is offering me only X amount of dollars. What should I do? Here's my skills. Here's the job. How do I respond to this question? So that's much more of a chat interface, but it'll be scoped to that kind of chat. So in those instances, we'll decide what's the right technology. Personal use, I use everything. I have a preference for Claude. It's really discerning, and it doesn't hold back. And I also I use AI Studio quite a lot from Google. The primary reason I like it because I can use the latest model, and because it's for developers, it never runs out of credit, and I can just carry on using the latest model with the highest thinking settings and everything else. But I give up my privacy because they use that data for training. But I'm okay with that for certain use cases. Yeah, awesome.
Thanks
so
Suhel.
much. All right.
Thank you everyone so much for coming. We're really happy to host you here at Accessit. I forgot to mention, those of you who don't know, Product Aotearoa not only has a Slack channel that Suhel gave a nice plug for, but we also host an annual conference. The very first year it was in Auckland, last year it was in Wellington, and this next year in November, we are back in Auckland again. So it's really exciting. We have a mix of domestic and international speakers. It's a 2-day event. On the first day, there are workshops that you can sign up for. The second day is a whole bunch of keynotes. You can do one or the other or both. It's totally up to you, very flexible. Find all the information here. We're really, really proud to finally be hosting. This is now our 3rd year of our New Zealand born and bred product conference. Out of interest, because this is quite a hot topic, who here is a developer or an engineer? Who's a business analyst? Who's in product? A product manager, product owner, and designer? Founder? Okay, cool. Anyone else that I haven't mentioned who they are? Coach or general manager, people leader, QA tester? Okay, cool. Really, really awesome. It's awesome because ProductTank obviously originally started to support product people, for product people, by product people. But I think the nature of the Wellington tech community is that we're quite small and we all support each other. So thank you so much for coming. You're always welcome at our events. We're really happy to see you here. And I think that's all. Thank you so much. Have a good night.